What is an unexplainable memory from your childhood? I have this memory of sleeping in an office block in South London with my mum on an airbed. I recall looking out of the window and feeling sad. Years later I was driving and got a very strong impulse to stop outside this building, and I was 100% certain it was that one. Every time I went past it felt odd. My mum says it didn't happen. Everyone else concurs. My best conclusion at this stage is that I probably had a very vivid dream that became conflated with something else. I could lucid dream when I was a kid. I would actually get really excited to go to bed because I could decide what to dream and then dream it. I had a reoccurring character in my lucid dreaming. He was a boy my age with blonde hair. We would always play in this backyard/playground type setting that has a big brick wall on the edge. One night I dreamt that we really wanted to find out what was on the other side of that wall. So we climbed a tree and the boy climbed onto the wall, looked back at me and waved, and went over it. I never lucid dreamed again after that. It actually caused me a lot of distress as a kid. I legit missed him terribly and tried so hard to lucid dream but just couldn't do it anymore after that. I'm like 95% sure I sort of got hit by a car when crossing the street with my mom. There was a red light and we didn't cross at a crosswalk. A car inched forward and I remember falling onto the hood. But I was fine. I used to literally get flashbacks for years. But my mom swears it never happened. I think she's lying. Sometime before the age of 5, I remember being convinced that if I tried hard enough and believed in myself, I could fly. So I would practice flying, jumping down the stairs when nobody was watching. I never developed my ability to fly, but I vividly remember basically cannonballing down 14 steps and just gliding down in midair and landing at the bottom totally safe and uninjured, many times over the years. When I was a little kid, I thought that the mountain ranges on the horizon on the way to Grandma and Grandpa's house were built by my Uncle Richard. I have no idea how this idea got into my head, but I remember that when I figured out that there was no way it was possible, I was pretty bummed out. When I was really young I was being babysat by a couple of teenage/college-age girls that were friends with one of my older cousins. They took me to a party, laid me down in a random bedroom upstairs, and put on a random videotape that definitely wasn't Barney or anything else suited for children. My mom swears this never happened, but I remember it way too clearly for me to make it up. My friend's dad came up to me and said he had a secret to tell me that I couldn't tell anyone else. Then he said, "I'm secretly in love with you." But that was where it ended. I remember being at a playground with my family and seeing lightning strike right in front of me. Didn't hear any thunder. No one else saw it. But I remember seeing it pretty vividly. Not sure if there's something that can go on in your brain that would cause something like that to happen. But I remember pleading with my mom to believe that I had just seen a lightning bolt strike right in front of me, and she just ignored me. I used to have nightmares. My dad put up a poster of Peter Pan in my room and told me that when I went to sleep, Peter would fly out of the poster and chase all of the monsters away. I never had another bad dream. My mother walked into my room, waking me up to tell me that most of the world's population was dead. I spent the rest of the day as normal, eating breakfast, going shopping with her, going to a playground, then eating dinner, albeit acting quite nervous throughout. The next day, she tried to make it clear that what started the previous morning wasn't true. I asked her if she remembered, but she told me she didn't. I'm certain it wasn't a dream, because I recall the rest of what happened the previous day to her, only to be met by her confirmation that everything I remembered was correct, right down to how shaky I was and how upset I seemed. All except for the part that humanity was on the brink of extinction. P.S. I am aware that, yes, it is true that most if the world's population is dead. What I meant when I originally wrote this was that most of the living population just dropped dead overnight. My sister and I apparently both had the same dream one night. A scary one. We were staying in this villa where we had to share a room and we both woke up suddenly. The window was open, when it hadn't been before. I realized she was awake as well and told her I'd had a bad dream. And as I started to describe it, she started talking along with me, describing the same dream. In it, this black creature that looked like a bull, only it had shiny, scaly, plastic-looking skin, was standing in the open window with this weird mechanical device, and it somehow fired a projectile at the lamp in the room, which started rocking back and forth. Neither of us wanted to get up and close the window in case the thing was actually out there. So we called for our mom and she closed it, reassured us in typical mom fashion, etc. For months we would talk about that incident and we could never figure out how we both managed to have the same exact dream at the same time. My mom told me that when I was a toddler, I would almost never drink any liquids. This was until I was 5 when I hit my jaw on a pole. And for some reason, after that, I always drink lots of water. Even to this day. I was laying down in bed trying to fall asleep. All of a sudden it appeared that a ghost hand emerged from behind my bookshelf and grabbed the book on the end of the shelf. I was scared out of my mind at first, but then convinced myself it was just a dream so I could fall asleep. The next day when I woke up, the book on the end of the shelf was missing. I never could find it. A small upstairs apartment. The only thing separating the kitchen from the living room was a countertop. My dad was in a chair in the corner facing toward the kitchen, holding me. There was a couch in the middle of the room with 2 adults sitting there while my brother ran circles around the couch. My mom was in the kitchen making a pizza talking to the other adults. It's more a recurring dream I had for many years than a memory. I finally asked my mom about it and she confirmed it happened, but I said I was only around 6 months old so I shouldn't remember it. However, my biological dad passed when I was 8. So I just kind of always took it as a memory he wanted me to keep. I recently remembered that a girl used to sit on my lap when I took swimming classes around the age 12 years old. After remembering more details, some being sexual, I asked my mom and she answered I used to hang about with my friend's sister who would have been 17 at the time. No one knew what was going on, but my mom stopped me seeing her after she invited a 12-year-old me to her house for a birthday party. Some way down the line my mind realized it was not normal and suppressed the memory. So it almost feels like it isn't my own memory and some parts still creep me out a little. I met Dolly Parton when I was a kid. I have no idea why or how, but it was in Illinois. It was like meeting the sun. She was just the nicest person ever. And it was the first time I ever met anyone with a southern accent, and I told her that and she died laughing. I know my dad took me, but nobody really knows why. / edit. Details: I woke up to a black spot on the back of my right hand. As I tried to pick it off, it started moving super slowly over the course of 5 minutes until it rested on my shoulder. Hasn't moved since. Nobody believes me, obviously. But 3 things make this situation weird. 1. I wasn't born with a mole on my shoulder. 2. My cousin and my sister both have a mole on the same spot, which would be fine. Except 3. I'm adopted. I'm Polynesian. And they are both white. Every year at our cabin I have a dream I fall into the lake. Was told later that I fell in when I was younger. I never have this dream at home. If the repressed memory is trying to tell me not to go on the water or just don't be stupid and fall face first. Breathing underwater. Turns out a lot of people have memories of being able to do something similar. Still haven't gotten an explanation. When I was about 5 or 6, my younger brother told me he wanted to show me a secret. He was 3 or 4. We waited until no one was around and he started jumping on tramp. He said, "Ready? Watch this," and then hung suspended in the air for about 10 seconds. It sounds crazy, but to this day we both know it happened.